We head to Parliament now, where the minority in the House is demanding immediate payment for hundreds of cocoa farmers who received no payment for their produce since November last year. The group has been criticizing Cocoa Board and the government after farmers confirmed that payments for cocoa delivered several months ago remain outstanding despite repeated assurances from the Ghana Cocoa Board. Addressing journalists in Parliament, minority spokesperson on Agric and Cocoa Affairs, Isaac Yaopoku, described the excuses given by Cocoa Board as untenable and demanded immediate payment.
Farmers have tended their farms through harsh weather. They have spent huge resources to control pests and diseases. They have toiled to harvest their farms and sold it to the government in good faith. Yet, months later, they are still waiting for weeks on end to be paid. Is this the resetting which was promised the good people of Ghana, or the reversing of the cocoa industry? Farmers are asking. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, it is not only the poor farmer who is suffering. The failings of government and Cocoa Board are also hurting the cocoa buying companies, that is the LBCs, and transporters, especially the indigenous companies and local enterprises. By delaying in repayment of cocoa taken over from the LBCs, these business and investments are at risk. They have their working capitals locked up, their progress hindered, and financing confidence undermined. Contrary to what the NDC preached pre-election time to promote indigenous business and investments, they have rather reset to kill indigenous companies, businesses, and enterprises in the cocoa industry. We call on government and Cocoa Board to pay our cocoa farmers immediately for all cocoa beans sold and to be sold to save the cocoa industry from slipping back to days of despondency and loss of interest. We demand an apology from government and Cocoa Board for this gross dereliction of duty. Cocoa Board must reimburse the LBCs of all outstanding repayments of cocoa purchased and delivered, and must also ensure the prompt repayment of subsequent deliveries and CTORs to avoid the recurrence of this despicable situation in the future. We demand that our cherished cocoa farmers are treated better and with dignity than what we are seeing now. Cocoa farmers are not beggars. Paying cocoa farmers promptly is not a favor, it is an obligation.
Isaac Yaopoku also describes the claims by Cocoa Board that the failure to pay is due to the elsewhere government's defaulting on syndicated loans as completely false.
We have heard from the Chief Executive of Cocoa Board trying to assign several reasons why farmers cannot be paid. Among the reasons was that the previous administration defaulted in the payment of the syndicated loan contracted for the 2023-2024 cocoa season, and that the current administration could no longer access the facility. I was surprised that this was coming from the Chief Executive. It is absolutely untrue. It is totally false. For your information, ladies and gentlemen, Ghana started the syndicated loan in 1993, and at the close of the 2023-2024 cocoa season, which was the last syndicated cocoa year, Ghana has never defaulted in the repayment of the loan. So if the Chief Executive has any evidence that Cocoa Board has defaulted, it should provide that evidence. You can go to him, let him provide the evidence. How much was defaulted and how much remains outstanding. The Cocoa Board Chief Executive should provide that. Another reason he assigned is the fall in the international price of cocoa. Yes, the prices have fallen, but this is not the first time price has fallen. When the NPP assumed office in January 2017, world market price had dropped from 3,000 United States dollars per ton in June 2016 to 1,800 United States dollars per ton, barely enough to pay the cocoa farmer. Ladies and gentlemen, when a government is faced with this challenge, the solution is not about rhetoric. It is not about who makes the most noise in public, and it is certainly not about excuses. It is about visionary, level-headed leadership with experience and immersed in critical thinking and not politicizing the issue.
Let's stay a while in Parliament and speak to our resident correspondent, Kweku Asante, who is joining us for more. Kweku, the minority also talked about billions of cedis owed licensed buying companies. What's the figure and their demand in this respect?
Well, welcome to Parliament, sitting host of the Pulse, Ken. So a couple of things have come up regarding that. The minority are talking about so-called 10 billion Ghana cedi that is owed a number of LBCs across the country. They say this is the bulk of the reason why Cocoa Board is unable to pay these farmers, because the LBCs have pre-financed these purchases for quite some time now, and now they are in debt to the tune of 10 billion Ghana cedis. They've taken loans from organizations, banks in particular, and the government through the Cocoa Board is not paying them, and that is why they also have stopped paying. They put the figure at just around 10 billion and are asking Cocoa Board that all they care about is for Cocoa Board to find the money wherever it can find it, pay them so that they can also in turn buy the cocoa beans from farmers and pay them hard cash for farmers to enjoy their families.
Cocoa Board and government must be blamed for failing to reimburse various cocoa buying companies for purchases already delivered to Cocoa Board. The LBCs have borrowed from banks and off-takers to pre-finance the harvest, but as we speak, Cocoa Board owes the LBCs over 10 billion cedis, being defaulted receipts of cocoa already taken over. To continue purchases and further deliveries in the same circumstance will mean the piling of cocoa taken over receipts, what we normally refer to as CTORs, as well as Cocoa Board's mounting indebtedness to the LBCs. In a recent press release by the head of Public Affairs Department of Cocoa Board, the impression was created that enough funds have been released to the license buying companies to purchase cocoa, but this was a complete hoax. The reality is that farmers are not being paid for their cocoa sold to the Mahama-led NDC government since November last year. For farmers who rely on cocoa as the sole source of livelihood, the past 3 months have been very trying moments. At no fault of theirs, cocoa farmers now find themselves in a quagmire, having been deprived of their hard-earned income from the sale of cocoa for more than 3 months. Some suffering farmers have been forced to sell their stocks at heavy discounts, plunging them into severe hardships. The non-payment of farmers for cocoa sold is not just incredibly outrageous, but it is a complete rip-off by the Mahama-led NDC government of their incomes and livelihoods, to the extent that some farmers are struggling to feed and provide for their families, and many cannot reinvest in their farms to sustain the cocoa economy. This was the least treatment our cherished cocoa farmers ever expected from His Excellency the President and his NDC government.
Let's go onto the telephone lines right now and speak to Nana Obuadia. He's the president of Concerned Farmers Association. Nana, have you heard anything from Cocoa Board or from government the past few days?
Thank you very much. And then good evening, your viewers. And then we thank the minority for their bold decision, being good citizens for coming out boldly in support of we, the cocoa farming, whilst we are waiting for our money being paid. The latest development that is coming now, reaching our state very soon, something good coming out of cocoa pod. So that is the latest development that they are having. And then first there's no sharing between farmers cocoa pod. So this is what it happens. So later in Monday, I think something good will be coming up, and then what to tell our and then if it is money, then we'll be talking all of us.
Nana, you've been saying very soon, very soon. There's no definite date. Is there a definite time that this is going to happen?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's the latest development by tomorrow is Friday.
Right.
So latest by Monday, then there's something good news for us.
And some of the cocoa farmers have threatened to smuggle their cocoa to other West African countries and even sell their cocoa farms to illegal miners. Is this the position they still maintain?
Others are threatening to do so, but then as we all know, that it is illegal, it is criminal for you to smuggle your cocoa outside. And there's no farmer that will be smuggling outside. It is a business of this political farmers that be buying it backside or backside, just send it out there. But for a farmer smuggle out, I don't going to know like that. But then talking about Michelle Fund, put it on, and then people
Nana, I would want you to kindly reposition yourself. I'm struggling to hear you. Hello, Nana Obuade, can you hear me?
Yeah, hello. Yeah.
Yes, but I am struggling to hear you. So if you can kindly reposition yourself and come again, please.
Yeah, is it okay?
Much better.
Yeah. What I'm trying to say is it is hardly for a farmer to smuggle out cocoa from this country. We have a cartel that the farmer today buy the cocoa bag to smuggle it out. So now, if we check, then it's going to be forced with maybe from other different countries to pop up to our country for them to have a high, to pay money. Because then, when you look at it, our so higher than some of the period around. So that is the problem that is being. So telling people to be very careful for the people that will find this kind of or do a check at the end of the day, you're not having a path to make them put out so that they have a.
Nana, I'm still struggling to hear you, but I got bits of it. But let me ask my next question. It is how the cocoa farmers are coping. How are they surviving 3 months without money?
It is very tough. I mean, very, very tough. In some of us, what we are doing is those that they went for looks and other, it was just that they communicate that girls in some of them with some money. It is not me. That's to you for us.
Unfortunately, Nana, the lines are very, very, very bad. I'm really struggling to hear Nana Obuade Bonsu II, who is the president of the Concerned Farmers Association there. Let's try him one more time. Do we still have him on the line?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I think then I was having a feedback from your end, so this one is okay.
Okay. So I was asking how the cocoa farmers are surviving 3 months without money.
It is not all that easy. It is not easy at all. Just that with this rehabilitation, those that did the rehabilitation are now even enjoying a little bit because of the plantain that we do planted, or cocoa board gave us to plant within our various farms that we are selling it a little bit just to survive. But even that one cannot sustain, because I remember Kwame Oduro just came to us that he needed money for his children to go to school. They are at Lagos, and now they are home because he can't afford buying some of the pay some kind of fees and then other things for them. And then there are a lot of challenges that is coming. Others also, their wives have delivered that they have to be buying feed and other things for them that is challenges. Those that they are into business are now facing police and then court cases, all because the time that we're supposed to pay the money is due, and then they are unable to get the money for those that they have a business with. So it has become a very challenging, but we're also trying our best, pushing or putting pressure on Cocoa Board just to make sure that the money will be coming and then all of us will be okay. And as I'm talking to you right now, there's a latest development, which I think by Monday, smile will be on the faces of the farmers.
And if it doesn't happen, what happens?
Come again?
if that doesn't happen, that expectation you're expecting on Monday, if it doesn't happen, what happens next?
Oh, well, we all know that some of the farmers are threatened just to go on demonstration and other things that I think it is very so. Others are on standby, which they want to hit under the street and the rest. But then also we have trust and respect for Cocoa Board, because Cocoa Board do respect as the finance sector, do respect with the cocoa farmers. I think they will do due diligence and then try to do what they are supposed to do, so that our relationship will be a little bit tight.
Right. Nana Obwadi Bonsu II, thank you for your time this afternoon. He's the president of the Concerned Farmers Association of Ghana. Let's take you back to Parliament, where the minority in the House are questioning the latest inflation figures announced by the Ghana Statistical Service. Government statistician Alhassan Idrisu announced on Tuesday that the inflation rate for January had fallen to 3.8%.
The data tell a very clear story. Inflation has fallen sharply and consistently over the year. Price pressures are easing across most components of the CPI. While challenges remain, particularly in some regions and food categories, the overall trend is positive. This creates space for planning, confidence, and recovery. In summary, in terms of numbers, we are talking about January 2026 recording an inflation rate of 3.8%. Food inflation at 3.9%. Non-food inflation at 3.9% as well. Goods inflation at 3.6%. Services inflation at 4%. Inflation for locally produced items at 4.5%. And then we have regional differences, which shows that Northeast recorded the highest inflation at 11.2%, and Savannah recorded the lowest at negative 2.6%.
And speaking to journalists in Parliament, minority spokesperson on the economy, Kojo Opon Nkrumah, said they're getting information that the figure does not reflect the realities in the market.
I'm hearing that figure. I'm also getting a lot of messages from people who are saying that what they see on the market doesn't exactly correspond with that. I'm sure when the government statistician appears before us, we'll have an opportunity to interrogate the data that they have and match it to what is really happening in the market. Many of your viewers and listeners, they buy from the markets, and they will be the best judges to tell us whether what they're experiencing on the market is 3.8% or not. We have told you earlier that what the government is doing to achieve these inflationary targets is not actually tackling the supply side. It's actually sterilizing a lot of money from the system. You recall that around October, we told you that the government has sterilized about 60 billion Ghana cedis from the system. In other words, that money has been sucked out of the economy, so people who want to use it to conduct transactions can't even access it. So it's one thing they're doing it on the demand side, and telling you, therefore, that inflation is down to 3.8. But when you go to the market, you see the real rate.
But traders at the Malamatam market here in Accra say a drop in inflation does not necessarily mean a drop in prices of goods and services.
No, you 50, 20 cedis, 20, 25, 30, 40. There's a unketeska, untimen tope. Uka almost say yes season, a bomb, see a beba, and so a mother. Obi aba o se ye ne yaye nso yenso nye yenso ne yaye pe ne board ntama isi ado omom nkita sika omom ntimi ntope ji se sika fo no kwa etimi to enso pe enso de nkenye aduaba bia e se ne board timi ye kosoro sa ama obi o so timi eba fom no obi a timi tobi no odi because ye say a healthy food but you see a pe nkita sika untimi nto season omo ye senka ye di Christmas wi a ebeba last month year December no and so January so na assigned but still life kwade aye worse cry nti ye nim de nti a aye sa
Akosha is saying that the prices of pear is so high because she was told that at least by the time where the festive seasons were over, the price of pear would have reduced. But here we are in February, and still the prices of pear is so high. She said she doesn't sell any of these pears that you see here below 20 cedis. The lowest price is 20 cedis.
Madam, ginger ne de better. Say un bedroom to ginger 10 cedi. Ube ye nkwan kitue bi wo fie do be she no ginger 50 cedis. Adango cry saying. Say adango 2 cedi first me and 5 baby mu use. Say adango 5 cedi.
Auntie Amanda is concerned about the price of ginger. She says that the ginger, the sizes are so small and yet it's so expensive. And to prepare a little meal, you'll have to buy at least 50 cedis ginger because no one sells below even 10 cedis of ginger here. In 2% we told ginger 10 cedis. She's going to show me how much I will get. Should I purchase 10 cedis ginger? She's actually counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is 10 cedis worth of ginger that she's giving to me. Prior to first, I bear 5 cedis.
Who could that 2 cedi cry to me the mouth? But there, never one and shut down your dance. And shut down your dance and never walk cost. But there we are saying season. A what time I be a what time echo. Until no dear board there, never one there. Yeah. But a man had me be a lolly fair. A man complains a lolly fair, and until a man bore a cosoro.
Auntie here is saying that the prices of plantain is not that high, but her concern is the transport, how the plantain is brought from the hinterland to the city. It makes it very expensive, and so she's hoping that at least when that aspect is resolved, the plantain, the cost of it, will not keep going up higher.
With other ones, it's good, but with frito, the only problem is with frito. They go up sometimes and they come down sometimes. But with sunflower and other brands, it's okay. The price is normal.
No me first no here le 10 cedi bi ane koloba le 15 le kotoku shinje kotoku bibi agbo agbe enene ko eba bi ane kotoku wonyo wo le 45 ene ina kache ene anwula wo le 45 eko nwe o ba wo le 5 ntrake sika 50.
Sister Nyakwa say okra comes in seasons, like what others have been telling us. So this is not the season for the okra, but the prices are relatively better than a year ago. She's saying that she's hopeful when it's season, when we get into the season of okra, we'll be able to purchase it at a very relative good price. In Timpacho,